Elon Musk stood at the edge of the vast ocean, where waves lazily kissed the shoreline under the dimming light of the evening. The world around him seemed still, a rare moment of quiet amidst his whirlwind life of innovation and relentless pursuit of progress. Yet, within his mind, there was no silence, only an endless storm of thoughts. For all his achievements and accolades, something was missing. It gnawed at him, an emptiness that success could not fill. Elon often found himself drawn to places like this, vast, open, and infinite, places that mirrored the questions stirring within him. Was there more to existence than what could be measured and seen? Could the endless march of science and reason truly explain everything? These were questions he seldom voiced, even to himself, yet they lingered, unyielding and persistent. This particular evening, the golden rays of the setting sun painted the ocean in hues of amber and rose. Elon felt small in its grandeur, a mere speck against the incomprehensible vastness of the universe. He closed his eyes and let the sounds of the waves wash over him. A thought surfaced, unbidden and raw. He whispered it aloud, his voice carried by the breeze. "God, are you there?" He wasn't expecting an answer. Logic dictated there would be none. Elon Musk, the man of science, had never placed faith in the unseen. But in that fleeting moment, he craved something beyond the tangible, something greater than all his accomplishments. The silence that followed was profound, as if the universe itself had paused. Elon stood there, the wind tousling his hair, his breath caught in his chest. Then, suddenly, he felt it, not around him, but within. It was a presence, subtle yet undeniable, like a whisper carried on a breeze. It wasn't a voice he heard, but words seemed to form deep inside him, resonating in his very being. "I am here," the feeling said, gentle but unmistakable. "I have always been here." Elon's eyes flew open, his heart pounding. He looked around, half expecting to see someone nearby, but there was no one. The sensation lingered, not fading but settling into him like a calm after a storm. He stood there, stunned, the words echoing in his mind. What was that? Did I imagine it? Asterisk. He didn't have answers, only questions, and yet something had shifted within him. It wasn't fear he felt but awe, a sense of being touched by something vast and unknowable. As the waves continued their ceaseless dance, Elon let the moment envelop him, unsure of what it meant, but certain it was significant. In the days that followed, Elon couldn't shake the feeling that had overtaken him by the ocean. It was as if the fabric of reality itself had shifted, and he was now walking in a world slightly altered, as though he had stepped into a new dimension where the lines between the known and the unknown blurred. The experience was too real to dismiss as a fleeting moment of imagination, yet it was too profound to simply be understood through logic and reason. His mind, ever analytical, wrestled with the experience. Was it possible that he, a man who had always prided himself on intellect, had truly felt something spiritual? Could it have been a sign, a message from a higher power? Or was it simply a trick of his mind, a byproduct of stress or exhaustion? The questions buzzed relentlessly, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt he had to find answers. Elon was not one to openly discuss personal matters, let alone venture into the realm of spirituality, yet this experience had left him unsettled, with a hunger for understanding he couldn't ignore. He found himself pacing through the halls of his home late at night, the weight of his thoughts pressing on him. He had spent years building his companies, breaking through barriers in space exploration, energy, and technology, but none of these achievements had ever left him with the same restless yearning he now felt. He had always believed in the power of human ingenuity, of science and reason, but now he was beginning to wonder if there was something more, something deeper that he had missed. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Elon reached out to a close friend, a man whose deep faith and spiritual insight had always intrigued him, even if he had never fully understood it. They met in a quiet cafe, far from the prying eyes of the public, and exchanged pleasantries. The ambience was serene, and the soft clinking of coffee cups created a peaceful rhythm that contrasted with the turmoil Elon felt inside. After some time, Elon took a deep breath and, hesitating for just a moment, asked the question that had been plaguing him. "Do you believe in God?" The question hung in the air, unexpected and raw. His friend looked at him, momentarily surprised. Elon Musk, the renowned skeptic, asking about God? It was a shift no one could have anticipated. His friend's response was simple yet gentle. "I do," he said. "Why do you ask?" Elon hesitated, unsure of how to express what he was feeling. The words didn't seem to come easily, but after a long pause, he began recounting his experience by the ocean. He spoke slowly, as if weighing each word, his voice carrying the weight of his confusion. "I felt something," he said quietly, "something more than just the world around me. It wasn't just the beauty of the ocean. It was a presence. And I don't know what it was, but it felt real." His friend listened carefully, nodding with understanding. When Elon finished speaking, the silence between them felt heavy, but not uncomfortable. "It's not unusual," his friend finally said, breaking the stillness. "Many people feel God in moments like that, in moments of stillness, when the noise of the world fades away." Elon's mind raced as he absorbed his friend's words. He had spent years searching for meaning, but this feeling, this presence, was beyond anything he had ever encountered. "But why me?" Elon asked, the question filled with uncertainty. "Why would God speak to someone like me? I'm just a man of science. What does this mean?" His friend looked at him with compassion. "God doesn't choose people based on who they are," he said softly. "He reaches out to those who are searching, those who are open to hearing his voice. Perhaps you were ready to hear it now." Elon felt a chill run down his spine. The words struck him with a profound clarity. Had he been searching all along, without even realizing it? Was this search, this longing for answers, what had drawn the presence to him that evening by the ocean? It was both comforting and unsettling at the same time. For so long, he had believed that his purpose was to push humanity forward through technology and innovation. But now, as he sat across from his friend, he began to feel that perhaps there was more to his life than that. His mind had always sought answers, but his heart had been searching, too, searching for something that no amount of success could ever provide. The conversation lingered with him long after the cafe visit ended. Elon's thoughts returned to that moment by the ocean, and the more he reflected on it, the more certain he became that something profound had occurred. He couldn't explain it away as a coincidence or a trick of his mind. Deep down, he knew it was real. As days turned into weeks, Elon spent more time in quiet reflection. He no longer felt the same drive for constant achievement. His attention turned inward, and he began to question everything he had believed about purpose and success. He would spend hours alone, either in his garden or looking up at the stars, contemplating the vastness of the universe and the smallness of his own existence. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that the universe, with all its complexity and intricacy, could not have come into being by accident. There had to be a creator, a force that gave meaning to everything, a higher power that was at the center of it all. And then, one night, as he sat quietly under the stars, it happened again. The presence returned. This time, it was stronger, more comforting, more profound. Elon didn't hear words, but he felt them deep inside his heart. It was as if the very air around him had shifted, and once more, the feeling of reassurance filled him. "I am here. I am with you." Tears welled up in his eyes. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel disconnected from the world around him. He didn't need to prove himself or achieve anything more. He felt loved, not for what he had done, but for who he was. And in that moment, he understood that the search for answers, the restlessness he had felt for so long, was not a curse. It was the path leading him to something far greater than he had ever imagined. From that night onward, Elon's life began to change. He would never be the same again. The quiet whisper in his heart had ignited something within him, something deeper than ambition, something that would lead him toward a new purpose, one that he could not yet fully understand but felt was waiting for him to discover. As the weeks passed, Elon found himself grappling with the shift inside him. The experience by the ocean had not just been a fleeting moment of reflection. It had altered something fundamental in him. It was as though a veil had been lifted, and he could now see the world differently, in a way he hadn't before. The clarity that he had once found in science and technology seemed less certain now, replaced by a quiet yearning for something more, something beyond the boundaries of his mind and intellect. He spent more and more time in solitude, not as an escape, but as a way to connect with the feeling that had started to guide him. He would sit for hours in his home, staring out at the horizon, contemplating the vastness of the universe and the fragile yet profound reality of his existence. The questions that had once consumed him, about technology, about progress, about the future, still lingered in his mind, but they no longer held the same weight. They seemed distant now, like old echoes that no longer resonated as deeply as they once had. The voice that had spoken to him on the beach, the presence that had enveloped him so completely, returned in moments of stillness. It wasn't a voice in the traditional sense. It didn't speak with words that could be heard by his ears, but it was a feeling, a presence, a knowing that filled him with peace and purpose. Every time it returned, it reminded him that he was not alone, that he was part of something greater. It was as if a thread had connected him to the universe, a thread that had always been there, but which he had never noticed until now. The more he reflected on this experience, the more he began to see his life in a new light. The success he had achieved, building companies, sending rockets into space, creating cutting-edge technology, had been important, but it no longer seemed like the ultimate goal. There was something more, something that transcended personal achievement, something about the impact he could have on others. Elon began to feel a pull, a gentle nudge that urged him to use his influence, not for further technological advancements or personal glory, but to make a difference in the lives of others. He started to see the world not as a place to conquer, but as a place where he could serve, where he could offer something of value that went beyond the material world. He decided to reach out to the people around him, to offer his help, not as a businessman or an innovator, but as a man who had learned something vital. He began small, helping those in his circle, offering a listening ear to friends, colleagues, and even strangers. Every conversation, every act of kindness, felt like a step towards something greater. It wasn't about solving the world's problems with a new invention or breakthrough. It was about offering compassion, understanding, and love. He realized that the power of these small acts, done with sincerity and heart, was far more profound than he had ever imagined. One day, while walking through a park near his home, he encountered a woman sitting alone on a bench. Her clothes were worn, and her face bore the signs of hardship. Something about her caught his attention, a quiet desperation that mirrored his own inner turmoil before he had found his peace. Without thinking, Elon walked over to her and sat down beside her. For a moment, they simply sat in silence, the world around them buzzing with life. Yet there was a stillness between them, a shared moment of quiet understanding. She looked at him, her eyes tired, filled with the weight of loss. "I've lost everything," she said softly. "My home, my job, my family. I don't know where to turn." Elon's heart ached for her, a deep sympathy rising within him. He had seen hardship before, but this was different. Something about her situation, her vulnerability, made him realize that there was more to life than success and wealth. It wasn't about what you could accumulate, but about what you could give. For the first time in his life, he understood that. Without hesitation, he placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "You're not alone. I'm here to help." The woman looked at him, surprised by his words. "Why would you help me?" she asked, her voice tremulous. "You don't even know me." Elon smiled gently, a sense of peace washing over him. "Because I believe that everything happens for a reason," he replied. "And I believe that I'm here, right now, with you, for a reason." That moment was a turning point for Elon. It was as if a light had been switched on inside him. He understood now that his purpose wasn't just about building companies or advancing technology. His true purpose lay in helping others, in making a difference, not through grand gestures or world-changing inventions, but through everyday acts of kindness, compassion, and love. In the days that followed, Elon began to seek out opportunities to help those in need. He would offer his time to listen, to support, to guide where he could. He started to see the world as a vast network of interconnected lives, each person carrying their own burdens, their own struggles. And in this realization, he found peace. He didn't need to fix everything. He didn't need to change the world with a new technology or idea. He simply needed to show up, to be present, and to offer whatever help he could. As he moved through life with this new perspective, something changed within him. People began to notice the shift in his demeanor. His friends, family, and even colleagues observed that he had become more patient, more compassionate, more in tune with the world around him. He wasn't just the visionary entrepreneur they had once known. He had become someone who understood that true success wasn't measured in dollars or accolades, but in the kindness and love you gave to others. One evening, as he sat quietly, reflecting on all that had happened, the presence returned once again. This time, it didn't feel like a whisper or a fleeting sensation. It felt like a clear affirmation of the path he had begun to walk. "You are on the right path," the presence seemed to say. "Keep going." Elon felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. He knew, deep within his heart, that this journey was far from over. The world needed to hear this message of love, purpose, and connection. But he also knew that the journey he had begun was his to walk. No one could walk it for him, and the answers he sought could only be found within himself. The presence had guided him this far, but it was up to him to continue the journey and share what he had learned with the world. And so, Elon made a quiet vow to himself. He would continue walking the path of love, service, and compassion. It wasn't about the world's expectations or accolades anymore. It was about the heart, and that would guide him through whatever came next.